Despite what Jack said, the real reason I'm here is I'm old. I'm so old that my ears are still ringing from the Big Bang. But I enlisted in the Marine Corps after high school way back in 1942. I trained for about almost a full year and then sailed down to the South Pacific to Guadalcanal, where I was assigned to the 3rd Marine Division. I took part in the Battle of Bougainville, the liberation of Guam, and the Battle of Iwo Jima. After Iwo Jima, I went back to Guam. That was our home base, and we began to train for the invasion of Japan. In August of that year, the war ended, and I sailed all the way back across the Pacific again to the East Coast, discharged from the Marines, and I arrived back at my family home on Christmas Eve, 1945. I had not seen my family for over 3.5 years, and I was just 21 years old. World War II was a young man's war. Most of the Marines I met and with whom I served were teenagers, 17, 18, 19, occasionally a 20-year-old, but not too often. And the Marine Corps was not unique. The last fighter pilot killed in World War II flew his P-51 Mustang fighter from Iwo Jima to escort bombers over the Empire of Japan. His plane was hit by ground fire and he crashed and he died. He was 19 years old. The most decorated American in World War II was a soldier in Europe named Audie Murphy. He was a rifleman in an infantry platoon. He demonstrated such courage and leadership that he was given the Battlefield Commission, put in command of an entire company of 225 men. He too was 19 years old. We had a Marine on Iwo Jima. His name was Jack Lucas. I always thought that was a good Marine name, Jack Lucas. When Jack was on the troop ship going to Iwo Jima, he was 16 years old. He celebrated his 17th birthday 2 days before he landed. And he ran up the beach, firing his Browning automatic rifle, a fully qualified Marine. And he was the age of a sophomore in high school. We're all such young children. And we realized that we left the future of Western civilization, put it in the hands of teenagers, and they did a pretty good job, I think. But in 3 months, that's February of next year, the Battle of Iwo Jima will have occurred 75 years ago. 75 years is a long, long time. And most Americans, or many Americans, still remember, still know about the Battle of Iwo Jima. It seems current in our minds. And probably because it's gotten so much attention. There have been over a dozen books written about the battle, three full-length movies, and an endless list of articles and stories, accounts, essays, analyses, documentary films. So much has been written about it. But it is my opinion that the most accurate description of that battle can be found in the last 6 words of Admiral Nimitz' remarks. Uncommon valor was a common virtue. There were examples of courage and heroism and sacrifice on Bougainville and on Guam, but on Iwo Jima, it seemed to be commonplace. It was everywhere. These young kids were just so marvelous and so dedicated. Men in combat do not, well, let me back up and say that as an example of that demonstration of courage, the 27 Medals of Honor were awarded on Iwo Jima. And I'm sure that for each medal there were 5, 10, maybe more instances of the same type of courage and sacrifice. But these actions went unwitnessed and unacknowledged. It was commonplace to see a young Marine hunkered down, and he'd found some cover. He's in a relative position of relative safety, ready to do his job. When he looks out and sees his mate out in front of the line, and his pal is wounded and bleeding, and you could almost see him think, it's dangerous. I shouldn't go out there, but my pal's in trouble. And he finally reaches the point where he simply can't not try. So he'll get up and go to his friend's aid. Sometimes he would make it and bring him back to safety. Other times he'd get cut down by a machine gun and he and his friend would die together. But it was commonplace, it was everywhere. And it made me think. You know, if I asked anybody in this room, what is your greatest fear? What do you fear most? The answer is death. We all hang on to life anyway. If you're sick, you go through surgery. If you've got cancer, you'll go through radiation and chemo, anything that it takes. We strive in our everyday lives to be successful, to acquire wealth, position, whatever. But those are all temporal things. Because these young boys in Iwo Jima, they value their lives just as much as you or anybody. They were frightened about losing it. In combat, the only emotion you have is fear. But they went from being afraid of dying to actually giving their lives to their friends because they loved them. And it's a love it's not like the love that is described in novels and movies, but a love that's based on respect, honor, understanding, commonality of purpose. But it seems that men in combat have been in a stressful situation for a long time. They bond. You get 3 or 4 guys in a fire team, they become one entity. They're like fingers on a hand. And I searched long after I came home to find some justification for that. And I found in Schopenhauer's essay on the origin of morality, he said it's common for men. I think I have a copy here. If you'll bear with me. I wouldn't dare quote Shakespeare or paraphrase Schopenhauer. So I just wrote copied one paragraph. He wrote, "How is it possible that suffering that is not of my own should immediately affect me as though it were my own, and with such force that it moves me to action? This is something mysterious, something for which no basis can be found in practical experience. In battle, it is nevertheless of common occurrence, and every combatant has had the experience. It is not unknown even to the most hard-hearted and self-interested. Examples appear of instant responses of this kind without reflection, one person helping another, coming to his aid, even setting his own life in clear danger for anyone who has been with him in past times of distress, having nothing more in mind than that the other is in need and the peril of his life." And I saw this. I saw these young boys. They're in sort of what you might call a commitment to safeguard each other's lives. And the commitment is non-negotiable. And it deepens with the passage of time. So because of that, when I came home, I thought about that a great deal, and I realized that having been in the Pacific, and especially having been on Iwo Jima, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because it taught me the value of love. Just that simple. And it didn't control my life. I lived a normal life. I went to college, I went to work, I had an office on Federal Street, I drove in every morning, bought a house in the suburbs, had 2 cars in the driveway, just very routine. But my life, the guide that I had through my entire life, was to appreciate the love in my life. I had terrific. I married the most wonderful woman in the world. We were married for 73 years. And she and our children are the core of my very existence. And my siblings. For 50 years, my siblings and I got together at least twice a year and spent a weekend together. And my friends. I have friends today that are the best guys in the whole world. I love them dearly. And but I probably was on the wrong path, I'm not sure. But I had a personal life and a professional life. And whenever there's a conflict, the professional life was never in consideration. This attitude, over the years, has cost me a lot of money. And at one time, it got me fired. I was supposed to go to a meeting in New York, and it interfered with the kids' graduation or maybe a Little League game. But I got fired. I don't care. I realize that life has value, and wealth, position, recognition has value, but none of them equal being alive. Being alive is the ultimate goal. The only thing that exceeds or surpasses being alive is love, because these kids taught me that love is more important than living. So I reached out all my life and enjoyed the association with the people I love. And I'll tell you this, I'm 95 years old, and I'm the happiest guy in this room. Okay, you're happy too, sir. And I can tell you this, I know I'm going to die soon, and when I do, it will take the undertaker a week to get the smile off my face. But we lost close to 7,000 men on Iwo Jima. And of that number, 22 were my good friends. And I visit some of them every single day. I've done this every day since the day I sailed from Iwo Jima. I just sometime during the day, usually in the morning, I may think of 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 of the guys. And I look at them like swiping photographs on my iPad. I see their face, I hear them laugh, I hear their voice. I think of something we did together. I still want to remember them. Like, let me think of one. Billy Jordan. Billy Jordan had a little mole right here on his left eye, under his left eye. You wouldn't normally notice the mole, but when he smiled, when the flesh rose up in the lines of his smile, that mole would sit right up on the top of a fold of his jaw. And I look at Billy, and I see that little mole, and I remember him. And there was Dwayne Clark. Dwayne had he had a round face, red hair, tight little smile, and freckles. When I see Dwayne, I see the thousands and thousands of freckles on his little face. And Lou Holcomb. Lou Holcomb was a little guy like me. And about a week before, a mortar had landed behind Lou's position. The shrapnel, none of the shrapnel from the mortar hit him, but the concussion slammed him to the deck, and his face hit the bolt cover of his M1 rifle and chipped the bottoms of his front teeth. And when I see Lou, he smiles. I see that picket fence chip tooth smile. I remember how much I love him. But, you know, when a young man dies, when a young man is killed in a car crash, we say that he lost his life. When a young man is killed in combat, we say that he gave his life. It was just a different verb, but the meaning, the difference in meaning is huge. Because when that kid in the car crash got out of bed that morning, he had no idea what was waiting for him. But the young boys that I knew, when they left the ship, climbed down the cargo net, and got in the landing craft to go to the beach, they knew that some of them they knew for a fact that some of them would die. And still they went, they gave. And they didn't just die. They gave up their lives. They gave up their futures. You know, over the course of my life, I have seen wonderful, beautiful memories. And they gave all that up. I remember the excitement of going to college, first day. And And they gave up that energy, that excitement of going to school or getting a job, starting a new career. They never went through that phase where you have your first apartment or your first dorm room, where you meet new people. And they gave up the fun and joy of dating pretty girls. And they never knew, they gave up that feeling of wonder and excitement and happiness that every man feels when he falls in love. And then they gave up getting married, dancing with your new bride at your wedding. And they gave up that unbelievable feeling of joy and wonder when you hold in your arms your newborn child. They never knew that feeling. And all of the things, the Little League games, the school plays, high school graduate, they never saw the kids graduate. They never saw the kids graduate from college. All of those beautiful memories they gave up. And it is just so much to have asked. Something's wrong. One time out. But I remember them, and I thank them for what they did and for what they gave up. And I can guarantee you that as long as I'm able to breathe, I will remember them every single day. And I will always be in their debt. Thank you.